Hello, my friends. It is day 160, and we're reading Proverbs chapter 19 through Proverbs chapter 21. But before we get into our recap today, I want to thank you for taking a moment to check out this video. Hopefully, you are finding the yearly Bible reading program to be exceptionally helpful and also a great blessing to your life as you read the Bible every single day and grow in this walk with Christ. If you have not yet accepted the invitation, I want to encourage you to check out the description box below. And there you'll find a link that will take you directly to the YouVersion Bible app, where you can join a number of people reading the Bible every day and leaving feedback on the things they are learning. So we hope you'll join, as I know it would be a blessing to us as much as I hope it will be a blessing to you. So here we are in the 19th chapter of the book of Proverbs, and we're reading through these final chapters of the book to learn more about how we can apply God's wisdom to our everyday life. And I hope you're finding the book of Proverbs to be an incredible blessing. There's so much here that we can learn about just living and maneuvering throughout this world. And that's one of the themes that we're adopting for this year as we read the Bible. And so I want to really focus on that and try as much as I can to pull out from Scripture what it is that we can use to strengthen our quality of life while here on earth. So there are a number of things here in today's reading. I found myself, even after reading the Proverbs for a number of years, I found new places to mark my Bible. And it's interesting because I was reading my Bible and then I look at my app, and so I kind of sometimes, depending on what Bible I'm using or what app I'm using, I can reflect on some of the things that I may have identified in the previous years and then notes that I wrote from previous years, and I can look at what I'm learning this year. And it's just amazing to me that some things that stick out this year that didn't necessarily stick out the previous year. And it just goes to show you how necessary and helpful it is to read the Bible as much as you can and as often, as many times as you can, because there's always something left that you can go back and pick up. And so one of the things I was reading, and as I was reading it, I was actually in the car with my wife, and I'm reading the Proverbs, and there's this verse in verse 15 that I thought was really good, and I had to stop reading and read it to Bettina, because I was like, listen to how this is put, and perhaps it's just the way that the translation captures the essence of the parable. I'm trying to look it up and see what it might have said in the King James Version to see if it has that same poetic ring that I see in the New Living Translation. But in Proverbs chapter 19, verse 15, one of my things that I'm enjoying about the Proverbs is just the encouragement that it gives us to work hard, diligently, and live with discipline. I think that's such an incredible message. In the New Living Translation, verse 15 says, "Lazy people sleep soundly, but idleness leaves them hungry." I was like, man, when I read that, and because I read and I read as I listen, hearing it connected in an interesting way as I was reading it. And the King James Version says it this way: "Slothfulness casteth into a deep sleep, and an idle soul shall suffer hunger." I think I like the New Living Translation a little more because it has some of this modern resonance there that makes me understand, just in a quick, witty saying, exactly the point and the objective of that proverb. We are so used to being comfortable in America until we don't even expect anything to come from hard work. We almost try to avoid hard work as much as we can. And then still want yet the life that hard work brings. I'll tell you something that I identified when I went to Ghana a couple of years ago. When I went to Ghana, I was able to see people who were not living as comfortably as we were, or as we are in America. There are not as many resources. There's not as much value placed on the currency. A number of challenges. And from the moment that I stepped foot in Ghana, the one thing that I was able to see was that there was an entrepreneurial mindset and that there was a strong work ethic that I had never seen before in my life. I saw kids out working that were as I was there outworking what I've seen hardworking grown men in America do. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And we're in this space now, or in this mindset in our country and in our world, where the objective is to try as much as we can to not work, but yet still demand almost the kind of quality of life that only hard work can bring. What I want you to see here is that I don't think that Solomon is saying that a person should try to work hard to improve the quality of their life per se, but rather a person should be committed to hard work because it is work that God committed us to even before sin. So when God created the Garden of Eden, he created man to work because he told him you are supposed to keep and guard the garden. That was before sin. So sin does not bring a consequence of work or even hard work. What sin does is it redirects and repurposes that hard work into something that is futile, something that is vain, something that is not God glorifying. So the objective in life is not to work less, but to work hard towards the right thing. You get what I'm saying? It is not to, as much as you can, try to avoid hard work, but it is to put the work where it needs to be. It is to allocate the work towards something that is worth working for. And we're going to see at the end of the wisdom literature that Solomon writes, we're going to see in Ecclesiastes, that the objective is to work towards the things that God has set before us with the sort of vigor and the sort of energy and optimism and dedication and diligence that we find God describing even before sin got into the picture. We're supposed to have that kind of focus. So laziness is not simply a sin because, you're just not going to be able to get what you want, but it actually goes against the creational design that God had before there was ever sin, that man should work towards the things that God has given him or her responsibility over with the sense of diligence and willingness and responsibility and accountability that we would anything that we would desire for ourselves, right? So that's the whole objective, and we see this theme over and over and over again, and I think it's worth acknowledging. Now, there are instances where Solomon talks about hard work leading to a fed mouth, a person being fed and things like that. So you understand that he also acknowledges the fact that we are in a fallen creation, and we do have to work by the sweat of our brow. We have to earn our living, if you will. But this whole idea of diligence, hard work, is bigger than just taking care of yourself. There's a certain value that's associated with it that makes it honorable and God glorifying. Another thing we find is how Solomon often talks about controlling your temper, controlling your demeanor. I love in verse 11, he says, sensible people control their temper. They earn respect by overlooking wrongs. Man, what a powerful verse. Easier said than done, right? But let me read that one more time. Sensible people control their temper. Sensible people control their temper. I am learning, and the older I get, I kind of wrestle with this, but the older I get, I'm always reminding myself that you don't have to respond to everything. You don't have to say something back every time someone does something. You can live your life in a certain way where you are poised, you're controlled, you are well gathered, even in the midst of offense, and just being able to control your lips, your temper, your mood, your actions, your demeanor. All those things are godly, and it helps us in ways that we cannot help ourselves when we lose our temper and act irrationally. So you see Solomon talking about how to manage yourself even in the midst of offense, even in the midst of being done wrong. Now, we talked about hard work being just the creational design. It is something that God expects from a person as a way of glorifying him. But then in verse 13 of chapter 20, he talks about using that same idea. In the first verse in chapter 19, he didn't talk about what laziness does to the quality of life, if you will. But notice what he says in he kind of does talk about it in a way, actually. He says that idleness leaves a person hungry. But notice how he again presses this issue in verse 13. If you love sleep, you will end in poverty. In poverty, keep. And I love this one. This is the one This is actually the one that I told Bettina about. Keep your eyes open, and there will be plenty to eat. Now, this is the one I read. I'm sorry, I got mistaken. When I read this verse, what it spoke to me was, you can just spend your life saying, "Man, there are no opportunities given to me. There's nothing, for me to do. I can't make anything happen. I'm never given the opportunities that other people are given." You can say all these things, and then the end result then is you just basically sleeping your life away, because you're ultimately waiting for someone to give you something. But then what he says is, if you live that life, then poverty is going to find you. But notice what he says in verse 13. He says, "Keep your eyes open, and there will be plenty to eat." Meaning, if you walk through life observing the needs of people and the opportunities to help others, then you'll always have something that can bring you the funds, the money, if you will, that you need to support the resources you need to eat, even if that means you just going to a field and plucking it for yourself, right? Anybody who has their eyes open and are able to understand the opportunities that are always available around you to make life what you want it and what you need it to be by God's providence, right? Like it's almost like the way I take this is this is more than just being a savvy business person. This is a person who is able to, by God's wisdom, by saturating their life with the wisdom of God, they're able to observe the world and see opportunities where they can serve, because they understand that everything that is among them, everything that is available to them, is not for them. It's for their stewardship. It belongs to God, and God trusts them enough to do the right thing with it. And by that, he rewards them with the fruit of the things that they labor in. So these passages, man, it just struck me like, man, there are opportunities all around you. Like there's anything you need, if you keep your eye open, wide enough, and if you are discerning enough, and if you are wise enough, you'll be able to see an opportunity that you can serve a need, and the Lord, according to the passage here, is saying that you'll be able to eat from it. Again, this is a book written in the Hebrew Bible, and those to whom it was given, they understand this, right? They get this point, and it is unbelievable just how effective it can be. I love verse 18. It says, "Plans succeed through good counsel. Don't go to war without wise advice." And so you always assess and measure the potential of anything that you set out to do. There are a number of verses here. I won't go through all of them. Chapter 21 was really good as well. Verse 5 talks about good planning and hard work lead to prosperity. I can speak from experience here, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. I can tell you, when I'm in a rush, I spend more money. When I fail to plan, I spend more money. When I'm not organized, I spend more money. It is a guarantee. That passage, verse 5, is it's probably one of the biggest stories of my life, because whenever I'm not planning, not organized, not thinking things through, I actually lose out quite a bit. So, a great deal of being prosperous has to do with not only hard work, but planning how you are to accomplish that work is always good as well. There are a number of other things here. Let's see. In verse 6, we talk about, wealth that is accomplished by deceit. We understand that that's not something that we ever want to possess, because it definitely causes us more harm. In fact, Solomon calls it a deadly trap. It's the kind of wealth that will soon be lost. And it is contrary to what we read in verse 20, where it says the wise have wealth and luxury, but fools spend whatever they get. And you see there, he's saying there needs to be a discipline of saving, a discipline of managing what you have been given, so that you will not lose it and you'll be able to enjoy it, right? And so these are a number of things that are just really, really good and helpful. You all, of course, have been reading through this, and I'm sure there are a number of things that stood out to you. I would love to know what those are. You can leave them in the comment box below and let us know what is impacting your life. But we have quite more to read in the book of Proverbs, and then after that, we still have yet even more wisdom literature to read. And so I'm looking forward to continuing this journey in the writings of Solomon, and I hope you will enjoy it as much as I know I will. But until next time, let's keep reading. Take care. God bless, and remember, live by the word.